Welcome to section 17.2, part 2. This is the 176th session of the CISSP exam prep series. This part drills into the specific attacks you need to recognize on site. In this session, we'll examine several classic attack techniques. We'll answer several questions. How does a SIM flood abuse the handshake? And how do you stop it? How does a TCP reset kill a live session? What are Smurf and Fraggle attacks? And how is a ping flood similar? Which legacy attacks still teach us something? What makes a 0-day so dangerous? How does an on-path attacker sit between two systems? And why is employee sabotage such a distinct threat? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because attackers keep reworking old ideas into new variants. Picture a trading platform where sessions keep dropping and login servers stall right at market open. If you know how these techniques behave, you can name the pattern and apply the fix in minutes. On the job, that fluency is the difference between a controlled response and a scramble while the business bleeds. How does a SIN flood abuse the handshake? Normally, two systems open a connection with a three-step handshake: a synchronize, acknowledge, then an acknowledge. In a SIN flood, the attacker sends a torrent of opening requests, but never sends the final acknowledgement. The server holds resources open for each half-finished connection, waiting minutes for a reply that never comes. Send enough, and the server exhausts its memory and processing power and stops answering real users. It is like a prankster offering a handshake, then yanking their hand away and leaving you reaching. How do you stop a SIN flood? A few defenses work well together. SIN cookies let the server skip reserving heavy resources until a real acknowledgement arrives, which shrinks the attacker's leverage. You can also shorten how long the server waits for that acknowledgement, so half-open connections flush from memory faster. Firewalls and intrusion detection and prevention systems often include SIN attack checks too. Note that simply capping open sessions backfires, because once the cap is hit, legitimate users get locked out along with the attack. How does a TCP reset attack kill a live session? Sessions normally end with a finish or a reset packet. An attacker abuses this by spoofing the source address and sending a forged reset, tricking two systems into tearing down an active connection. They then have to rebuild the session from scratch. This hits hardest on systems that rely on long-lived, persistent connections, because recreating the session and its data is far more work than a quick reconnection. Think of someone forging a hang-up signal on your phone call, forcing you to redial and start over every time. What are Smurf and Fraggle attacks? Both are flood attacks that trick a whole network into attacking a victim. A Smurf attack sends a broadcast ping while spoofing the victim's address as the source, so every machine that answers floods the victim with replies. A Fraggle attack does the same thing but uses certain UDP ports instead of ping. Modern routers are configured not to forward directed broadcasts, and firewalls often block the relevant traffic, so these are rarely a problem today. Picture forging someone's return address on a mass mailing, so every reply lands in their mailbox. How is a ping flood similar? A ping flood simply overwhelms a victim with ping requests. On its own, it is limited, but launched from a botnet as a distributed attack, tens of thousands of systems pinging at once can bury a target so it has no time for legitimate traffic. The common defense is to block the incoming ping requests, which stops the flood without killing all of the traffic. Active intrusion detection systems can even detect the flood and block those requests only while the attack is underway. Which legacy attacks still teach us something? Older attacks rarely succeed now, but their variants keep resurfacing, so recognizing the originals helps you spot the new ones. A ping of death used oversized packets that some systems could not handle. A teardrop attack sent fragments that the target could not reassemble, crashing it. A land attack spoofed a victim's own address as both source and destination, tangling the system with itself. Many of these cause buffer overflows, and the strongest defense across the board is simply keeping systems patched. Think of learning old lockpicking tricks, so today's clever variation does not surprise you. What makes a 0-day so dangerous? The 0-day exploits a vulnerability that defenders do not yet know about, so no patch exists. The purest version is when an attacker discovers the flaw first and is the only one aware of it. The label also covers the gap when a vendor knows but has not shipped a fix, and even the window right after a patch drops before organizations apply it. If an attack lands weeks after a patch was available, that is not a 0-day, it is just an unpatched system. Your defenses are the basics: trimming services, running firewalls and intrusion detection, and using honeypots to observe unknown attacks. How does an on-path attacker sit between two systems? In a man-in-the-middle attack, also called an on-path attack, the attacker slips into the flow between two endpoints. In one form, they simply sniff the traffic. In the more powerful form, they act as a hidden relay. So the client and server each believe they are talking directly, while the attacker captures and even alters everything in between. This takes real skill, since the attacker must impersonate the server to the client and the client to the server at the same time. Keeping systems patched and using a VPN both help defend against it. Picture a dishonest interpreter relaying two people who trust every word, quietly rewriting the message. Why is employee sabotage such a distinct threat? Because it comes from inside, from someone who already has knowledge and access. Sabotage is deliberate destruction or disruption by an employee, and the risk spikes when a worker turns disgruntled, expects an unfair firing, or keeps access after being let go. That is exactly why termination should be swift and access should be disabled immediately. Beyond that, lean on intensive auditing, monitoring for abnormal activity, open communication, and fair recognition of good work. Think of a trusted key holder who turns bitter, and why you change the locks the moment trust breaks. So let's bring it together. A SYN flood drowns the handshake, countered with SYN cookies and shorter waits. A TCP reset forges a teardown of live sessions. Smurf, Fraggle, and ping floods. Weaponized broadcasts and pings, but modern configuration blocks most of them. Legacy attacks teach the patterns behind new variants, and patching is the common cure. 0 days exploit unknown flaws. On-path attackers relay and rewrite traffic, and sabotage strikes from trusted insiders. Recognize these shapes, and the countermeasures follow. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on rucloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.